think that I pretty much know that he's back down in the Nampa area, the Boise area from Alaska, and we're actually seeing about having dinner together sometime here soon, and so be doing that. And I just came back from a trip to Colorado, where, as you know, I spent a lot of years living, and I didn't go and spend any real time in the part of the state where I lived. I actually went farther east and towards Kansas. Was almost in Kansas. I was right on the border of Colorado and Kansas, and was at a dog event and was able to see some prairie chicken, which I don't remember the last time that I saw a prairie chicken. Alicia will probably put a link in here for how we can look at prairie chicken. If she doesn't, I'll do it. But I'm actually on another computer that I have right over this way. I think I've showed you how I kind of have my office set up. So there's another laptop and actually another screen, big screen. Actually, I've talked about this, but I'm so passionate about it. I'm going to tell everybody about it again now. What you're seeing on that screen that's being shown is a device which you're going to see right down below the TV. You see where it says it's blue and there's a cable running in front of it. But if you could read that, it says the time, 3:02, which is our time here. And that is called a SuperBox. So that's what that device is. I have been all over the country to various different events that are trade shows, we call them, home shows, different things in which companies that make things for home use, you see them at. I've been to CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, for the last 12, 15 years, don't even know, but it's held in Las Vegas in the winter in January. And I've only seen these super boxes at a very small number of different events, home shows normally. And we happen to have a guy that sells them at home shows here in the Boise area. And he was just at one at this previous weekend in Boise called the Boise Home Show. I wasn't there, but the screen you're seeing is called the box. And this is the remote for it that just looks kind of like a typical remote, but I'm actually going to show you some elements of it. First, you can see up there it says all, and you can't read the number probably, but that's 2,044 individual streaming channels. I'll call it a channel that you can watch. So it starts at 1 with A&E. It's kind of alphabetical. There it goes to ABC News. There's ABC West, AMC, American Heroes, Animal Planet West, Animal Planet, Antenna TV, which is just a different source. I have to click on it to make it switch. So right now it's on AXS, I guess, TV, but let's just switch to one of these. Let's switch to BBC. So there's BBC America. Obviously a commercial right now. Let's switch to BBC World News. Okay, here we go. So there's the king is beginning the process to remove Andrew's titles. That's not an environmental piece of news, but big piece of news nationwide, worldwide. Anyway, it'll go all the way up to 2044. I'm not going to go all the way up there, including a lot of local regional stations, which I could, I would potentially watch something from Idaho Falls. Let's click on that one real quick and see what it does. So it's got some daytime television thing on it. And Up TV is one that I actually do watch a little bit of. That's up at a Fox station. And this one happens to be a bluegrass Christmas, so it's a Christmas movie. Here's CNN, both international, Spanish, and just general. Comedy Channel, Cooking Channel. So you can see it's pretty much alphabetical. But then it's going to switch here soon after you get all the way through at about here. Let's see, we're at now. Now it's going into regional. I'm in the 200s, regional network type stations all over the country. Anyway, I'm not going to go through, so I'm only up to 358. That's just one thing you can watch, because when I hit on home and I go back to this, that's live TV. You also have what's called playback, which I'm going to click on and show you that it will show. I don't think there's a lot of stations here. We're going to see how many there are. There's probably, it's 86, but you NBC in San Diego and see over the last, from all the way from Friday, October 24th up until today, there will be whatever was on those at a certain time of the day. So I use that rarely, but I do use it. And then this is what I use most, which is VOD, which is video on demand. By the way, this is totally legal to own. It may be illegal to sell, quite honestly. That one I'm not sure about, but these are just some things that my wife and I follow on. And by the way, these boxes are only just powered. So there's a power cord on the back of that little box there. I carry that little box with me when I travel, and there's like HDMI cable that will go right into the back of one of your TVs. So let's just pick one of these I just happen to know. I told you before, I love Heartland. So it's been around a while, but let's take American Ninja Warrior. It's been around a lot of years too. So look at the number of seasons. So it doesn't go back to season 1, although there's another place I could find. But here's season 10 all the way up to the most recent season, which just finished this summer. And there's all the episodes of American Ninja Warrior. And I have already favorited it, which is right up there. And that's why it's that white color. So then I can just go back and it'll take me to all the ones that I have as favorites. Well, here's an example of a show that's been around for a lot of years, Survivor, where it's now in season 49, and it, in this case, it only goes back to season 43. I could find it in another. So now I'm going to go back here again, and I'm going to go to, actually, I might have it on VOD. Nope, I don't. I'm going to go back to the home screen, go to apps. And I'm going to add this Cinema HD just by doing one click. Now it takes it to it, and there's a new version of it, so it's quickly going to install it, which that's easy to do. And you want to update the app, probably do. I'll do this here real quick, and it'll be done in just a second. Mark, anybody have any questions about this? I'm not looking at the screen where the questions are on. If they do, well, I'll answer them. So it's installed. Okay, I get it. Now I've got to go down and get that open. And then here's a bunch of series that if people watched. So let's say I know Grey's Anatomy's been around a long time. Sometimes I got to find out. Everyone's a little different. This has been around since 05, 20 years. So there we go. Now you can go through every season of it back to season 1, March of 2005, and all the way up to the current season, the season 22. And all I would do is click on that. And this one loads a little differently. I pick the episode, say I want to have episode 18, and I click on watch 18. It's going to give me several options probably. I can watch that in 720p, which is not very high quality. Sometimes it'll give me 1080, and it'll sometimes give me even better than that. But I'm just going to click on this one just because it's already up there. And here's the episode. I've got it muted, so you're not going to be hearing the volume. But there was the episode of that as it was done whenever that season was. So this is on CTV, which is, I think, maybe Canadian. I'm not sure. I don't even know what C stands for. So anyway, I've talked a little bit about this, but I would highly recommend it to people. You can buy them. I don't make any money from it, although I've talked many times about becoming a dealer of it. I think they're like $500 on the internet, and I can get them for as low as $279. And if you want, send me an email and I'll see if I can get you one. There's no additional fees. You don't have to have a subscription. If you're a sports nut, if you love different sports programming, or you like old time shows, this is the thing to have. Stuff that was on 50 years ago, Bonanza and different things like that are just old. You can be watching them. So anyway, enough of that. Back to me. And I am going to share my screen. And Doug and Alicia and others that are out there, put your questions and comments in. Anybody that wants to come online, raise your hand and Mark will tell me. I am starting to use a new piece of software I want to show to everybody before I go to sort of some questions of the day. This is called StoryDoc. And for $15 a month, and I'm on a free service for 14 days, it does decks for presentations. So I've talked about it. One of the new businesses we're starting is going to be called Canine Hub. And this is what it's going to do. We help competition dog owners buy and sell dogs and dog-related products and services. Really that simple. If you notice, this is going back and forth kind of slowly. I'm not doing that. This just kind of does it. Notice now you can see these leashes all together at the bottom here. And so it's just going, it's fading out, and then it'll start to fade back in. It just did that naturally. I don't have to do anything with it. That is not an AI generated image. That's a real photographically made image. This one is AI generated. This presentation, this is AI generated. And you can kind of see that from, if you know what to look at for dogs, that the dogs are just a little bit too, the fading out of their fur into the background element, which in this case is a brick surface that they're on, just is too solid. The interface isn't as fuzzy as it would be if these were real dogs. So compare it to this one where they are real dogs, and you can see the distinction in shadows even, and the difference in colors. This one is AI, but because of the clouds and everything, you don't see it so much. Here's an example. That is AI of this dog. This.
We're not, Wayne, we're not seeing your screen.
Oh yeah, that's right. You should have warned me that earlier, Mark. You didn't tell me that.
My bad.
Sorry. Now you should be
Yes.
seeing my screen now.
Yes.
And is it blocked at all by the Zoom?
No,
Okay.
it's clear. Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry. So now we'll go back. So this is this new this not it's not super new, but I mean it's less than 6 months old. It's actually made by a Middle Eastern company. The principals are from UAE and Qatar and Saudi Arabia and even Israel. Interestingly, it's a kind of a conglomerate of different owners. Um, and it'll present to where I just literally got it today. I'm not sure how you see the view of the whole presentation, but it did all of the background work. I have edited some of the writing at this point. I actually did edit the images. The images that it put in were not appropriate. And this I need to edit. I do have statistics of what the real market size is, so that's not accurate yet. I got to see how I show the whole presentation.
So there should be option to go present mode.
Well, maybe it's up here and not being seen because this bar that I have. Okay, yeah, here's a preview. Here we go. Now we'll see the preview.
Right.
There we go. Now it's
Pretty
showing.
nice. Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
Yep.
Pretty seamless. It shows I didn't give it a name yet. I don't know why it's called. I'll have to give it the right name, but it's got my name that I created it. Apple M. I don't know what Apple M is. That's something that, but look at how this one does. This streams from a real low number up to 500 million. So I can pick whatever the top end is and have it do the same thing. So I'll show it this time. You'll see it as we come on screen. No, but I guess once it's gone through it once in the presentation, it doesn't do it. That's an AI image there. These two are real dogs. I have not rewritten this bottom portion yet. I did do this. I got to still put images of the people in and rewrite this. And then this is not going to be looking, we're not looking for funding for this company, but so our ask is going to be something that is we're actually looking for partners, affiliates to market our dog auction, which Mark's going to show a little bit later in terms of the progress we've made. So something that you guys, I think, could think about. This is a free for 14 days. It's called StoryDoc. So storydoc.com. But if you do a search for StoryDoc, you'll come up with it. And I'm, like I said, I like it. It's one that I think you're going to get some value out of. So I am a paid ChatGPT user, and they have just come out with what's called ChatGPT Auto and Instant and Thinking, and it is relevant up until instantaneously before you ask for information. It used to be ChatGPT and OpenAI were only accurate back to a date, maybe as much as 8 or 9 months prior to whatever the date you're doing the search on them are. So you can see what I asked to do a search of. What are the 10 most controversial environmental issues facing mankind today? For example, there's clearly science on both sides of the issue of man-induced global warming. Is PFAS, you guys have heard me talk about PFAS, which is a group of chemicals that are found in Teflon. They're found in almost all waterproofing materials used in clothings that you would find. It's ubiquitous. Is it really harmful? is it really a problem? Well, that science is pretty controversial. There would be, obviously people with lots of vested interests that manufacture it that would say, no, the science is not real great, that it actually does cause a problem. We'd never even heard of it until about 5 years ago. PFAS was not even a term ever used. And yet, I say that, and 40 years ago, asbestos was a term that we had just barely begun to use in the environmental sciences. We started to first regulate asbestos in 1981, and so 44 years ago. And before 1981, most people had never even heard of asbestos as a problem. And yet it was in brake pads. Almost every vehicle had it in their brake pads. We used gloves that we'd use to wear to take hot things off of different things, and it was in it. It was in, you name the different types of insulation. It was on both blown-in insulation and fiber insulation and surface insulation. It was in sound deadening materials. It was, again, a ubiquitous chemical used in, or not even, excuse me, element, really, because it's a fiber. So it's a man-made fiber. You've heard me say this, but why did it become so huge? It is absolutely, there's no question, it's been the most litigated environmental contaminant ever in the history of the world, even though we've only known about it for 45 years, because the two diseases that people get that are only caused by asbestos are mesothelioma and asbestosis. And if you get either one of those two diseases, you have to have had at some point in your life an exposure to asbestos. And there's no question. So now, if you're heirs, if you die from those two, and those are both lethal diseases, they're going to kill you at some point. It's just a matter of how long. The latency period for mesothelioma is 20 years. So you can have mesothelioma for 20 years before it starts to clog your lungs and you start to get symptoms from it. But you've had it for all that time. So the exposure to asbestos probably that you're dealing with occurred 20 years before your symptoms start to become serious enough that you know that you've got a problem. And lawyers have been amazing, have had huge success in suing, all different kinds of entities as it relates to that. And to me, that's a controversial issue. Is our lawsuits the way we should be settling environmental problems of one kind or another? But I asked ChatGPT to give me 10 different issues. I actually chose two of them, one of them being global warming and the other being PFAS. And then I said, pick 8 to 10 more. And so we're going to look at a little bit of those here. And it actually did it twice. I am using a new version of ChatGPT. And so I have what's called a plus account. I pay for it. Still, it's not that expensive. It's about $20 a month. And it actually gives me two different responses. So you'll notice they're going to be a little different. So this one says here are 10 of the most controversial environmental issues facing humanity today. Over here it says here are 10 of the most same thing facing humanity today. But then it gets different, including the one you mentioned about PFAS. Here's where it's different. This one goes each with why it's contentious, what the science says and doesn't, and key questions and stakes. This one talks first about the PFAS, along with the summary of why it's controversial and so on. So we'll look at these and see what's different. The new versions of ChatGPT also give images that are clickable, and you can actually click, and we'll see this down here a little ways, and can go to a specific site that is describing what we're talking about. So both of them start with anthropogenic, which is man-induced global warming. Here it's actually called man-induced. Anthropogenic means the same thing. Is it controversial? Yes. While the vast majority of climate scientists agree the planet's warming and human activities contribute, there's still debate about how much, how fast. precisely what feedbacks dominate and what is the best policy response. As a matter of fact, I'd say there's even one more, and that is that this says most climate scientists, majority, agree that there's warming. That is not true. A very, very large number of them do, but to say most is probably an exaggeration. There are Nobel Prize winning scientists, brilliant scientists, who disagree, that don't believe the same thing that the other unbelievably smart scientists also do say that is happening. Here, there's now the ability to do a clickable. So we're going to click on that, open it in a new tab. I have not looked at this article from the Dutton Institute, whoever that is, yet. So we're going to look at it. And here is Dutton Institute is obviously associated with Penn State University and the College of Earth and Mineral Sciences. Here's an article written. It'll probably show us somewhere when this was written. Don't see a date. Oh, it's not over. There's more. There's more of the article. Usually there's a reference somewhere that tells us where it was written. So this looks like it might even be a book where it's Introduction to Energy and Earth Sciences Economics. And this is one of the chapters here. It's not even, it's one portion of one lesson, where this lesson is topical issues, climate change, and carbon policy. And this happens to be specifically related to the controversy. So that's that. We're not going to hit on any of these real specifically unless somebody wants to talk more about them. This is also citing the Dutton Institute article that we've looked at. But let's switch issues now. Let's switch away from climate change to PFAS. Why is it controversial? PFAS, per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, which is what that acronym means, are extremely persistent in the environment, found in water, soil, products, and now human blood. But because there are thousands of PFAS compounds in varying exposures, the science about exactly how dangerous each one is and at what threshold remains unsettled. Well, I'd say it's worse than that. There's huge arguments one way or another, and lawyers will not try to convict some company for exposure to PFAS because their client has cancer. They just won't, because you can't win that case because there's just so many arguments against it. So what we know, some PFAS have been linked to cancer, immune disruption, hormonal effects. Just about everything is linked to those things. Developmental issues, they're termed forever chemicals because they don't break down easily. That's pretty well documented. That's not arguable, probably. They do not break down very quickly. So key questions: which PFAS are the worst offenders? What are safe levels, especially over long periods? You're going to find this is not very good science yet. There's not going to be answers to these questions. What are the safe exposure levels? So what they're going to default to saying is none, zero. You shouldn't get exposed to any. Well, that's impossible. I guarantee right now, as I'm sitting inside my house and wherever you're sitting in the world, you're breathing in PFAS compounds into your lungs. So you could be in the middle of the Sahara Desert or in the middle of the rainforests hundreds of miles from a city, and there's going to be PFAS in the air and in the water you drink, and at some level. Right. So that's issue number two. And notice they don't give a whole lot of answers because it's very controversial. Here's where, so what's it, the science say? According to the US EPA, current evidence suggests exposure to certain PFAS may lead again to adverse health outcomes, certain cancers, hormones, disruption, immune effects, but research is ongoing and understand low-level long-term exposure. So who knows? But let's go to number three. Remember I said I asked it for 10. So I named the first two. I named climate change as one, PFAS is two. What's it say is three? Biodiversity loss and mass extinction. The scale of species decline and ecosystem collapse is increasingly documented. Don't think that's controversial. It is. There's clearly over really very measurable periods of time decline of numbers of species. Now, that's interesting because there's a whole class of species of organisms called aliens, and those alien species are not from another planet. Alien means they were not previously identified, and they are not considered to be native to a given location, but they're now there. So they've moved in. They're aliens from some other place in the world moving to a new location. And that number is dramatically increasing over time. So that's a little different than a loss of biodiversity. It's an increase in biodiversity, but it's of not native organisms. I did see that maybe a question came up. Can you see a question from Alicia, Mark? She raised a question, I think.
She raised her hand, but I don't see a question. Maybe she'd like to come
Ask her if she wants to come on and speak for a second.
Yeah, I'll ask her that.
So staying on again the whole idea of biodiversity loss and mass extinction. Here's this side of the page is obviously a much more abbreviated description of these 10 issues than the one over here on the right, because I'm on number 3 here, and I'm still just starting number 2 on the right. This is relating species extinction to climate change and invasive species. What's really cool, though, is like I said, it's very easy to see where this source is. So this comes from earth.org. So it's real easy to go in and read and do research and to get confirmed sources. But they also want to sell to you, so they give you their opt-in here, which I'm not going to do right now. Here's carbon dioxide levels and showing how they've increased, and there's no question they have since 1985. Here's why man-induced climate change is controversial to some people, some scientists, not just individuals. If you ask pretty much any scientist, global climate scientist, what element of our air has the biggest impact on temperature of the air, what do you think it would be? What aspect of air has the biggest influence on air temperature on any given day? I'll give some options. Is it CO2? Is it humidity? Is it barometric pressure, which changes based on weather systems? Barometric pressure is what has caused these hurricanes that one of which is occurring right now in the Caribbean that is horrible and has caused 25 deaths, I think I read, in Haiti, and 15 deaths in Jamaica, and an unknown number because it's still just today hitting Cuba. It's heading to the Bahamas and Bermuda now. But barometric pressure is another impact. Which of those, let's just say those three: barometric pressure, humidity, and carbon dioxide, which of those three causes the biggest impact to temperature in the air? My guess is you're going to guess it wrong. And one of those three is not just a little more important than the other two. It's like 98% of temperature of air is affected by its level. And then all the other reasons make up the last 2%. What is it? It's either percentage of moisture in the air, humidity, CO2, which is what this graph shows, and it shows how it's going up in level, or barometric pressure. One of those three has a dramatically higher impact on temperature, air temperature in the environment. I'm going to let that sit for a minute while we kind of continue to look through this. This is actually showing its own 10 issues, I think, or a number, because it starts with climate, and then it goes to fossil fuel dependence, then it goes to food waste. Food waste is appalling, by the way. We waste so much food in our world, and it's mainly in those places where we have plenty of food. The Americans were awful with it. Food waste in developing countries, 40% is waste. And in developed countries, well, developed and developing, it's 40% of the food is lost. It's just crazy. Biodiversity loss, we just talked about that, and that was what was listed the other. Plastic pollution starting to get just awful. In 1950, the world produced 2 million tons of plastic. By 2015, this had soared to 419 million tons. I wonder what it is today. 29 million by 2040. And then if you include microplastics, it's up to 600 million tons by 2040 is the prediction. Deforestation. Each hour, forests the size of 300 football fields are cut down. By 2030, the planet might have only 10% of its forests if deforestation is not stopped. Highest levels are in Brazil, the Congo, and Indonesia. Here's deforestation next to a native forest. Pretty neat picture. Agriculture is the leading cause. A broad issue, just air pollution, number 7. And this relates to number 1, actually melting ice caps and sea level rise. ocean acidification. There's probably a graph here showing how much it's gotten acidified. And that means a pH less than 7. Acid is anything that has a pH less than 7. By the way, acidic soils are very common, and acidity that's in the makes pH in the realm of 6.7 to 6.9 can actually be better for plant production. So just because soils are acidic doesn't mean they're bad. It's only if they started out being 7.2, 7.3, and now they've moved down to being 6.7. The scale of pH is not linear, it's exponential. So that a change of 1 pH unit is a change of 10x the amount of acid, 10 times, or base. So you go from a pH of 7 to a pH of 6, and you have 10 times less or more acidic if it's going down, and more basic if it's going up. Yeah, here it's talking about agriculture being a polluter. And again, this is tied to climate change, because the pollution it's talking about is just excess CO2 production. You grow more plants, you're going to produce more CO2. That's just the nature of it. And that's what plants do, is they produce CO2. They excuse me, I said it the wrong way. They take up CO2, they produce oxygen. And I guess it stopped. Oh, that was number 10. So now, oh no, keep going. So soil degradation, food and water insecurity. I'm not going to go in great detail here. Fast fashion. What in the heck is fast fashion? I don't even know what that means. Textile waste. I know what textile waste would be. I'm not sure what fast fashion is. Overfishing. Over 3 billion people in the world rely on fish as their primary source of protein. 12% of the world relies on fisheries in one form or another, 90% of these being small-scale fishermen. Think of a small crew in a boat, not a ship, using small nets or even rods and reels, lures, and so on. And the 18.9 million fishermen in the world, 90% fall into that latter category, which is the small ones. Now, think about it. How many fishermen do you know? And I'm not talking about somebody that does it for fun, for sport, as we would say, which is what I am. I'm a sport fisherman. I don't know a professional fisherman. I know of some, and I know that there are, anytime you were to go over to a coastal city and just walk on a commercial dock area, you'll find the fishermen. But in Asia, and in developing parts of the world, those numbers are just huge. And they'll be in every town and little city around the countryside, there will be professional fisher people, fishermen, fisherwomen. Here's an interesting, this is the most specific one so far. Cobalt is quickly becoming the defining example of mineral conundrum at the heart of renewable energy transition. Key component of battery materials that power electric vehicles is cobalt. And guess where most of it comes from? Where it described earlier as one of the poorest places in the world, the most deforested places in the world. And cobalt mining is associated with lots of bad worker exploitation. So maybe that's the end of it. There are how many? 15 there. All right. So let's go back to our ChatGPT search. So plastic, we've talked about that. That one was on that article we were just looking at. Deforestation, water scarcity. We didn't talk about this one. I actually think this is a much bigger one than certainly that earth.org article talked about. In many places where the highest level of agriculture is occurring in the world, it's using not water coming from the air as in rainfall and being stored in natural lakes or even man-made lakes and reservoirs. Instead, it's coming from groundwater. It's coming from wells that are anywhere from close to the surface, 20 feet from the surface, to thousands of feet below the surface. Aquifers under the central portion of North America are drying up. That is not controversial. That is a known fact. They're losing their volumes. Now, it could be that there could be a source of surface water that would cause them to go back up in their level, but that hasn't happened. So water scarcity could be huge. So that's listed as number 6. Let's see what level it's listed at over here. Plastics are number 4 over here. Plastics are number 4. Land use is number 5. Yeah, land use, deforestation, land uses. I think they're all the same in order on both sides here. This one just gives a little different and longer description.
Yeah, Robert has a question for you. Okay, so did you read the October 30 article about how the 1.5 degree trigger point were being exceeded?
Yeah. Let me read the question mark because I'm not understanding it. Just a second.
Okay.
Is it this one you just put in here? Support for PFAS affected Maine farmers. All right. PFAS relief fund. Okay, that's just money available. That it must be following that.
It's towards the end from Robert.
I'm to the end, and it says, oh, here we go. Current national climate pledges fall far short. Okay, but I think that means that monies that some entity, governments, people, wealthy people, whoever have pledged towards dealing with it, those numbers fall far short of what is needed to limit warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade. I'm not sure how long of a period that time that means. Warming by 1.5 degrees centigrade every year, or 1.5 every decade. I'm not sure. I'd have to read it. It looks like we've got an article here, so we'll read that. I have not read it, so let's open it and see. It's another earth.org article.
Yes. So he says it's interesting. From Martina. Martina Igini.
I'm looking for a number here, and I'm not seeing it.
Okay.
As to what the amount of money that they're saying is going to need and what the level that's actually being
Mhm.
put into it is the report says that there's a frightening gap between what governments have promised and what is needed to protect people and the planet. So the governments have promised some number, and then scientists are saying that number is not big enough. Okay, that's the controversy here.
Yeah, nobody put any answer for the audience question. So what is the most important factor for temperature?
It's water vapor, and not just by a little bit, everybody. And there wouldn't be, that is not controversial. Water vapor, so the amount of dissolved water in the air has a 98% of the impact on creating temperature in any given location. And it'll obviously vary depending on the sun that's shining, but that also creates that humidity. So humidity goes up when it's more cloudy. Carbon
Doug,
dioxide and barometric pressure have in total have less than 2% impact. And yet we don't talk about humidity much. So
right.
why don't we try to reduce humidity or increase humidity? It's increased humidity which would allow less global warming or less temperature, because higher humidity will allow more heat to get trapped, and therefore it'll cause more evaporative loss, and it'll go back down onto the soil. But anyway, bottom line is we don't ever talk about that. You don't ever see it. It's not controversial. So why would you talk about it? You can't argue about it because nobody's going to disagree that it isn't the largest impact. And yet we tend to focus all the time on carbon dioxide, when what I would argue is we really need to focus on moisture, relative humidity.
It turns
And
out Doug Ness, he got it right. So
yeah,
that's correct answer.
cool. This looks like a very cool article, by the way. And earth.org obviously is a site that you don't have to pay for it. You just can go to earth.org and do a search right here and pick a topic you want to look at, and you can find articles that have been written about it. This is written today, everybody, 3 minutes ago. No, it had to have been written earlier than that, because he put the link up. I think it maybe is 3 minutes since I opened it. I don't know for sure. It's over 150 contributing writers. It's nonprofit, obviously, and they're looking to get people to donate to fund it. Let's learn about Martina a little bit. She's a journalist and editor with experience covering climate change at earth.org. So she must work for them, where she is responsible for breaking news coverage, feature writing and editing, and newsletter production. She single-handedly manages over 150 global contributing writers. Wow, 150 people work. 100, I mean. And Deb, I have a dog barking. Let me see if Deb can help me a little bit. These are pictures from the tornado, from the hurricane. No, this is not either. This is the Philippines, but here's the eye of Hurricane Melissa here that we were seeing. Let's go back, click on that.
Hurricane hit Jamaica, right? A few days ago.
Yes, this is the one that hit. Here's earth.org's Instagram account.
Mhm.
And this was actually 2 days ago. So this was before it hit Jamaica.
Mhm. We were under hurricane watch for
You
last
were?
2 days. Yes. And
Oh,
we didn't get a hurricane, but we got heavy rain and a little bit of wind, not too bad.
this is a Pinterest. Some time back, I asked my computer to start saving things that come out on Pinterest. Not sure why.
Yeah, Pinterest is almost dead. Nobody cares anymore.
I should I should get rid of this for it's saving Pinterest pictures.
Right.
Oh, I screwed up. I didn't. I got rid of Chat GPT there. It came back. This right-hand side, this way that it now analyzed it, obviously gives a great. So you have to choose. I prefer this response versus. And since I'm a scientist, I always like more than less. So I'm going to go over here and choose this one. I don't know what that did. This is interesting. A note framing for your work, because ChatGPT learns about you by what you put into it. Given your deep interest in ecological/regenerative education and consulting, which I have, with the nonprofit Institute of Economics, and your morning spiritual adventure gatherings, which is things that I do. I've told you guys about at different athletic events around the country and like to be doing them all around the world. You might consider how each of these controversial issues can serve as a case study or pillar to your programming. Highlighting systems thinking, how many of these issues interconnect, that is really important. Encouraging active agency, which is how individuals, communities, and businesses can engage, not just doom and gloom. I like that. And emphasizing regenerative solutions, e.g., soil health. You're never going. These are not controversial. I think everybody will agree that soil health is vital. You don't want dirt. You want soil. Agroforestry, circular economy. Use things more efficiently. Don't just drive a car for an hour a day. I don't even want to admit it, but I'll tell you what's sitting in my parking area right now. 4 trucks, 1 car, 1 tractor, large one golf cart that's electric, so an EV powered golf cart, 1 ATV that is a 2-seater, a Kawasaki Terex, 1 ATV that's a sit-on top, 1 person, 7 unbelievably high-end bicycles. I'm just thinking of what are my vehicles that I have that are sitting. Okay. Trying to, that's pretty much it. Okay. Those that either by human power or by some kind of a motor will go down the road or go somewhere. I got 7 of them. Is that the right number? Let's go through them again. 4 trucks, a car, that's 5. The Terex, 6. The UTV, oh no, the 7. I have the golf cart, 8. I have 8 that are motorized. I have an e-bike, so that's 9 that actually that's got a motor in it too. And then 6 other bicycles that don't have motors. The motors become my legs. So I think we're up to 16 there. Not one of them have been used today. I used one of that whole number yesterday. If you went across the whole year, the amount of time that those are sitting and not being used is 99% of the time, I guess. 99%. And I'm not unusual. I have a few more vehicles than most people have, but the whole concept of circular economy, access and sharing economy is another way to describe it, which again, companies like Uber and Airbnb, and those are the two best examples. There's a whole bunch of others, will make use of underutilized assets, are such amazing business models. We should do so much more of it. Chemical-free design, community water system. Water, what a waste. We should have community water systems. I have one well. I have my own well. It sits for 90% of the time never being used. Why isn't it being used in a whole community? There's wells in 100 houses that are within, a walking distance of me, of which they're very rarely. They're just not a circular economy mentality. A note of my framing, embedding the spiritual dimension. Again, if you do believe in something more than just life today and you have some spirituality in your life, that's obviously an important one for all kinds of people. And it is for me. And let's see what the last one says. Building a market and content and using topics on your Kajabi site and other things. It totally makes sense. We do that, by the way. Mark does that. We write articles in about 5 or 6 different websites weekly, Mark?
Yes. At least 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm. We have an African author that we've employed for at least 10 years, right, Mark? That helps write for us. Marin.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, I see it says Alicia raised your hand. Alicia, we're over time, but we can let you come on and talk if you want real quickly, or we can just see your question. But Mark would just see if Alicia wants to just be unmuted for a second.
Yeah, she's I just unmuted her, so she has to unmute her on her end and be able to talk now.
I'm done for the day, everybody.
Yeah, and I see Paresh is on, but we're at the end.
Who's on?
Paresh from India.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, it's he gets up, and so he just will come on right in the early late stages.
Mm-hmm.
These just show these Pinterest elements, so they're just the expansions of these. But I have another one that, let me show you, I think another ChatGPT search. Oh, it's not going to be here. I have 2 ChatGPT accounts, and this is not the right one. This is a book that I'm writing, and I'm writing it about electronic water treatment right here. So here's my first chapter that I'm using ChatGPT and Grok and several others to help me write.
Okay. Paresh says good morning, and Alicia says thank you. I have a cold and I'm not speaking well.
That's good.
That's fine.
All right. Well, Paresh, thank you so much. Thank you for everybody in the audience. Tell your friends about us. This is something that more people ought to be listening to. We do get a lot more replays, I know that, and Mark does shorts now for every one of these. And we didn't even get to the one topic, which is the website we're creating on dogs, which if you're at all interested, it's funny. I have a sun coming in right there is one of my big windows, and it's hitting me right there. So the World Cup of women's cricket's going on right now.
Yeah, I'm laryngitis.
Okay, that's Alicia. Don't save your voice. Save your voice. Save your voice, Alicia.
Yeah, yep.
All right, everybody. We're gonna say goodbye for today. And next week, we probably, in the very near future, we have Ronaldo and we have William Horvath.
Yeah.
And we're going to have others. Doug and I are going to have dinner together soon, and maybe he'll give us some other sources of people that he knows up in Alaska that we can interview. And it's going to be fun. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your week and day. Stay healthy.
The
Stay.
PFAS summit in New Jersey.
What's that?
The PFAS summit in New Jersey in December.
Oh, okay. There's a PFAS summit in New Jersey in December. So anybody
That's
that's in
great.
that part of the world, try to see if you can attend that. That would be awesome. Thanks.
I put the link on there in the chat.
Okay. All right. Well, why don't you give us some more next week? Give us some links to that so we can see about people that might want to attend that are in our group in that
It's
part of the
already in the
world.
chat. I put it in the chat. The link's in the chat.
Awesome.